Soft landing or hard landing? What's in store for the US economy this year in 2024? Also, is there a third potential scenario, and how likely is it that it could take place? We're gonna get into it right now here in this video about the 3 potential economic outcomes for the United States here in 2024. My name is Arjun Dhingra. I am a 2-time world champion, former Team USA co-head coach, and a 23-year mortgage advisor and student of the game. I put out these videos to help advise people on how to make smarter decisions around taking out mortgage debt, educate them about the overall housing market and economics, and teach a little bit of financial literacy. So if you like what I've been putting down and you're getting a lot out of these videos, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and click like on this particular video so that I can reach more people like you. Okay, so let's get into these 3 potential outcomes, because the media and all of the economic pundits that are out there are talking about 2 possible outcomes right now for the US. And that is the whole hard versus soft landing. They feel that because of all the actions that the Fed have put in place over the last 18 months in the way of all these rate hikes and all this tough talk, which was all to battle inflation, that now, as a result of those rate hikes and the slowing economy and things starting to shift, that there's one of 2 ways that this movie ends. Either a soft landing, and they're talking about a plane, the plane landing with a soft, somewhat smooth landing, and you barely noticed that there was even either a recession or any type of real economic slowdown. Or there's the hard landing where the plane kind of crashes, bounces off. You guys have seen the videos when a plane has a very rough landing. There's turbulence, there's stuff leading up to it and in the aftermath, and it's just not pleasant. But this whole 1 versus 2 scenario, or black and white, or 2 options, is a little bit too general in my opinion. And I think there's a third, not so likely, but still possible option that may happen here, and that is the springboard landing, where the economy or the plane could land and then bounce right off and take off again. I'm gonna talk about that one first, and why I feel it's actually the least likely to happen, but is still worthy of mention. The springboard scenario would basically involve the Fed prematurely cutting interest rates. And they would do this either because they're facing a lot of political pressure, and let's be honest, we're heading into an election year, things can get manipulative or a little bit gray during these times, and the Fed, with pressure from the White House, may just decide to come out and start cutting rates to paint a rosier picture about the overall economy, or to show that the current administration really has a good grip on the economy and that everything is fine and we should re-elect them. Now, I'm not endorsing either a re-election or a new administration. I'm just telling you how I see this economy shaking out. So in that scenario, the Fed comes in, they prematurely start to cut interest rates. And what happens is, as a result, a lot of money comes back into the economy, or stimulus, because when rates are lower, there's more borrowing. This stimulates growth, spending, so on and so forth. But that being done too soon on the heels of an economic and inflationary recovery period right now would actually springboard the economy right back to where it started, which is getting us right back into an inflationary period. So while there might have been good intentions with some of those rate cuts in this scenario, it ultimately would lead to a disaster, because if the economy went right back into an inflationary period, that would mean that all of these rate hikes that the Fed did over the last 18 months were in vain. All of the job losses, the bank failures, the mortgage company closures, the slowdown in real estate, and other aspects of the economy were all for nothing. I think it would lead to some very pissed off citizens here in the United States, and rightfully so. So while this scenario could happen, I would put it as probably the third or lowest likely to occur. So now let's get to the hard versus soft, since we've talked about the middle part and that not being very likely. A hard landing would basically mean an economic crash of some sort. And the way I see it, this would happen only if there was a major, and I mean serious, shock to the labor market. Something would need to happen, almost in the way of a black swan event, kind of like COVID, where nobody saw it coming. It happened and everyone just had to react, and it became the new reality. But something would actually have to happen that would shake up the labor markets to the point where there was widespread job layoffs, spiking unemployment, certain industries or companies closing or downsizing significantly in terms of their workforce, hospitality and leisure taking such a hit as a result of less money being spent, and they start to close down, and this widespread ripple effect through the entire economy. That ultimately leads to people putting their homes on the market, needing to downsize or relocate, equity being squandered, more people collecting unemployment, less spending in the economy, retail sales coming down. You guys get where I'm going with this. It would basically be a terrible downward spiral. And yes, there's always that possibility, because nobody can see these things coming, but they do happen. They are cyclical. They are part of the United States economy. What goes up ultimately comes back down, and sometimes comes down fast. But nobody can really pinpoint how this hard market crash or hard landing would actually manifest. And that's the thing about these black swan events. Nobody ever gets it right. They just happen. So while there's still not a very high likelihood of it happening, we can't discount that and just ignore the fact that it's always possible. But trying to determine where it comes from or what ultimately is going to lead to that shakeup still has yet to play out. So I think for now, this is more of the second likely scenario, and we need to respect it and be cautious of its potential happening, but not necessarily lose sleep over it, because there's just not a lot of data. There's just not a lot of stats or economic energy to show that this is going to be the reality, which leads me to the most likely outcome for this economy in 2024, which is the soft landing theory. Now, in a soft landing theory, the plane lands and just kind of smoothly finds its way across the runway and continues, meaning that the economy would just kind of find a way to create or exist within its own harmony and hum along and decide later whether it takes off or continues to stay on that same pace. And what I mean by that in terms of a timeline would be after the election here in the United States. Lots of economic proposals are going to come forth, and there's going to be two sides. One that's talking about keeping things continuing as is, another one offering a very stark contrast to that. The markets intermittently will react to these proposals, but ultimately, until it's quite clear that one is going to actually be the outcome or the reality for the United States, we won't see a truly defined direction. So with the soft landing, the Fed likely leaves interest rates alone, meaning they're not going to come in and cut rates at all next year, nor are they going to talk about other hikes. They're basically going to stand put on their decision to do these aggressive rate hikes from 18 months ago, where they promised us that there would be short-term pain and that we're going to do large hikes on the front end of this cycle in order to do less, if not no hiking at the back end of it. So they keep their word, don't raise rates, certainly don't cut them either, and let them stay where they're at so that the economy can find a way to hum along with higher interest rates. And to be honest with you, that's probably the best case scenario, because it still pulls money out of the US economy that was excessive. Inflation continues to get under control. The US consumer kind of resets their expectations. Companies reset themselves. Labor forces find new harmony as well. And the economy just finds basically a different kind of normal. But there's not a lot of pain involved with that situation, which is why it's referred to as a soft landing. And there's more signs leading to this outcome than there is the other two that I presented earlier in this video. So ultimately, at the end of the day, a soft landing is how this movie is going to end in 2024, with an election result that finally dictates and determines what direction the overall economy could head into. And then we will see either an economic spike or a little bit more of rough waters ahead. That's my economic forecast for 2024. Again, if you got value out of this video, please make sure to like it. Leave me a comment with your thoughts on whether you feel a hard or soft landing, or potentially the springboard theory that I introduced, or maybe one of your own, is the likely outcome for the US. Stay subscribed to my channel so that I can bring you more videos like this, and I'll see you guys on the next one.